Korean musicals are celebrating their 60th anniversary this year. Over the past 6 decades, the Korean musical industry has grown rapidly and is now expanding beyond Korea to stages in Broadway and the West End. Today, we'll take a look at how far K-musicals have come and where they are headed next with our culture critic, Professor Chie Hye-won at Kyung Hee University. Welcome back, Professor Chie.
Hello, Professor.
Hello, good afternoon.
All right, so 60 years of Korean musicals. So first and foremost, where did Korean original musicals begin and what major productions have shaped the industry?
Right, the Korean original musicals can be traced back to 1966 with 살짝이 없어예, which is often called Korea's first original musical, and it was based on a traditional Korean story with the Korean music and dance with the Western musical format. Then in the 1980s and 90s, the industry really started to grow. So Subway Line 1, 지하철 1호선 became a major hit, and The Last Empress, 명성 황후, was another important success. So it premiered in Korea in 1995 and became one of the best known Korean original musical. And in 1997, it was performed at Lincoln Center in New York City and making an important step onto the international stage. So in the 2000s, we began to see a much wider range of the Korean original musicals like Laundry, Ballet, told a very warm story about the ordinary people, while Hero, Young-woong, brought on Korean history to the musical stage on a much larger scale. And this was also performed in New York City. And today, works like Maybe Happy Ending, 어쩌면해피엔딩 are gaining international recognitions. So over the past 60 years, I believe Korean musicals have grown and found their own voice, and now we are reaching more audiences around the world.
Wow, that was like 60 years in 60 seconds. I couldn't have summarized it any better.
Thanks.
Right, and you did mention Maybe Happy Ending, which actually walked away with 6 Tony Awards. Now, in your opinion, what kind of, let's say, turning point or impact did this achievement have on Korean musicals?
Yeah, that was definitely a major turning point for the Korean musical theater. So what makes Maybe Happy Ending so special is that it was originally created and developed in Korea first. So it first premiered in Seoul in 2016, and years later, it made its way to Broadway. So winning 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, Best Book, and Best Score, was especially meaningful. It showed that a musical created in Korea could be recognized for its story and its music and creativity on the world's biggest musical theater stage. So I believe this really changed how we see the global potential of Korean musicals. So Korea is no longer just a market for the international musical theaters. Now Korea is also bringing its own original musicals to the global stage. So in that sense, I think Maybe Happy Ending has really opened a door and a new chapter for the Korean musicals and the creators as well.
It is a remarkable achievement. And speaking of remarkable, there is a Korean actress, musical actress, who actually was a K-pop star before,
Right.
Ivy. She actually used to perform at my university back then. And I mean, she debuted more than 20 years ago, but now she's playing Roxie at Broadway for Chicago, of course. And I hear she's actually with that, she became the first Korean musical actress to take such a big lead role. So what does this milestone mean?
Yeah, that's true. She is the very first Korean musical actor on Broadway. So I think Ivy's Broadway debut is a very important milestone for the Korean musical theater. It's huge. It's really huge. So what makes it even more special is that she learned the role through the very strict audition process. So she wasn't part of the Korean production performing in New York. She was actually cast in the Broadway production of Chicago. So until now, when we talked about the Korean musicals going global, we mostly talked about Korean productions going overseas. But Ivy shows us something new. So which is that Korean performers themselves can also make it to Broadway or West End. So, and after the success of Maybe Happy Ending, this feels even more meaningful. We are now seeing both the Korean original musicals and the Korean performers gaining recognition on Broadway. So I hope Ivy's success will open more doors for the Korean performers in the future on Broadway or West End.
Right.
Right, and Chicago being probably one of the most recognized musicals in the world, and Roxie being such an important character, Ivy has had the chance to play this for many years and sort of develop her own interpretation as well. I mean, every actress or actor is different in that way, where they want to put a little bit of themselves within the character.
Right.
Now, what do you see as the strengths and competitive edge maybe a Korean musical actor or actress has on the global stage?
Yeah, I think a Korean musical actors have some real strengths because they are very trained and experienced and very dedicated. So Ivy is a great example. So she started her career as a pop singer, as you just mentioned, but over the years, she has become a very experienced musical actress. And she has played Roxie in Korea nearly 600 times.
Wow.
Right, so she knows the character inside and out and has developed her own way of playing Roxie. But the Broadway was still a new challenge for her, especially because of the language. So she studied English intensively for about a year and a half and worked very hard on her pronunciation and accent. And I just heard that she's still learning and she's still practicing. So what really stands out to me is that even with all that experience, she was still willing to learn and grow and challenge herself. So I believe that combination of the skill, experience, and the ability to keep growing, that can give the Korean musical actors a real competitive edge on the global stage.
Right. Being a good actor is one thing, but being good at acting and singing in a different language is dance, right? Because the diction is very important in musicals.
I'll add on to that as well. Chicago being based at obviously Chicago, the Chicago accent is quite interesting and quite hard to master. So for her to play 600 times and for her to keep coming back is just an amazing achievement.
Right,
now,
it is amazing. Right?
Yeah. So Korea's production capabilities these days when it comes to musicals has come a long way over the 60 years. Like you briefly mentioned, you gave us a sort of historical timeline.
Right.
How has the system for developing and creating original musicals changed over, let's say, the years?
Right. One of the biggest changes is that the whole process has become much more systematic and global. So today, new musicals in Korea can go through readings, workshops, and trial performances like a tryout and before a full production. So this gives the creative teams more time to test their works and get feedbacks from the audiences or the professionals and make it better, their work better. So another important change is that the role of Korean musical producers. So they are now working with the more international writers and composers and directors from the very beginning. So The Great Gatsby is a great example. It was led by Korean producer Shin Chun-soo, working with the international creative team and became a major Broadway show. And now we are seeing more global projects like Nero, produced by Shinshi Company and producer Bang Myung-sung. And another one is Friends and Mary, developed by ACOM with the British creative teams. So Korean producers are no longer just beginning international musicals to Korea or taking Korean musicals overseas. They are now creating and developing new works with diverse creators all over the world. So I believe this is a very important step forward for the Korean musical theater.
And continuing with that step forward, Professor Chie, we've also got productions such as Marie Curie and Swag Age, Shout Out Joseon. Those have also found success overseas.
Right.
So would you say we are entering a new stage when it comes to Korean musicals going abroad?
Yes, definitely. Yes. I think we are now seeing a real wave of Korean musicals going global. So what is exciting is that it's not just one or two successful shows. It's more Korean musicals are finding their way to, into the different markets, over global markets. So Marie Curie was developed into the English production in London, and Red Book had an English reading and showcase in London, and this year it had first the Japanese production as well. And The Last Man has its UK premiere in London earlier this year, and while the Let Me Fly is now developing an English version for the US market. And the Swag Age Shout Out Joseon, 외쳐 조선, is also being developed for a UK tour. So what we are seeing now is a much broader movement. More Korean stories are reaching different countries in different languages and different forms. So I believe Korean K-musicals are beginning to build a real presence in the global musical theater market.
And before we let you go, Professor Chie, would there be any other Korean musicals that the international audience should keep an eye on, which could potentially become the next global Korean musical hits?
Yes, there are. There are actually several Korean musicals to watch later this year. So as I just mentioned earlier, Friends and Mary opens in London on September 28th, and the Nero will begin its London tryout on November 2nd. So we'll be able to see very soon how these new global projects are received globally. And I would also keep an eye on Granny Poetry Club, 오지게 재밌는 가시나들. It is a warm and very Korean story about the elderly women who learn to read and write, and then begin writing their own poetry. So, which I really love this show. So I will, and it will have the English reading showcase in London later this year. And beyond this year, 아랑, a new Korean musical, 목류도원, is another musical theater to watch. So this actually won the Baeksang Arts Award for the best musical this year, and its next big goal is Broadway in 2028. So what is exciting is that these musicals are all very different. They show the diversity of Korean musical theater today. So I am so excited to see which one became the next global hit, like maybe Happy Ending.
We can feel that excitement, Professor Chie. And I should keep this a secret to Walter, but I actually watched Granny Poetry Club with Professor Chie together.
Yes, we did.
So
Where was my invite?
next time, let's go together. And I mean, really, with these developments, really, it looks like Korean musicals' future is brighter than ever. Thank you very much, Professor Chie, for those insights, and see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Walter, as always. We're going to have you back here next week.
See you next week.